Valerie handed me the campaign credit card statements at 11 p.m. in our war room. The Ritz-Carlton charge was dated October 18th. I was in Ohio that week. Let me back up. My name is Andrew Sullivan, and I've been running political campaigns for 25 years. They call me the closer because I win. 14 campaigns, 11 victories. I've built my reputation on one thing: integrity. Clean campaigns, no dirty tricks, no scandals, the kind of strategist candidates trust with their futures. Tonight, standing in our Congressional District 7 campaign headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, I'm learning that integrity is a luxury I can no longer afford. The war room dominated the back of our office. 8 feet of magnetic whiteboard covered in our strategy. Red marker for opponent vulnerabilities, blue for our messaging, green for undecided voter data. When you wrote on it with dry erase marker, you could hear that distinct squeak, the sound of strategy being born. The whole thing smelled like fresh ink and erasure, the smell of constant revision. I'd been working that board for 6 hours straight, preparing Congressman David Harrison for tomorrow's debate. 28 staff members had cycled through. Ryan Wade, my deputy campaign manager, stood close to Jennifer at one point, reviewing donor strategy. Too close. I noticed it for half a second, then dismissed it. Ryan was engaged to my daughter, Madison. Jennifer was my wife of 28 years and our finance director. They worked together constantly. That's what I told myself. But after everyone left, Valerie Kim pulled me aside. She's our deputy finance director. 42 years old, meticulous with numbers, loyal to a fault. Her face was pale. Andrew, we need to talk about the credit card statements privately tonight. The way she said tonight made my hand drift to my lapel. There's a brass pin there, my father's union pin from the 1960s, AFL-CIO, worn edges from 40 years on his jacket before he gave it to me. I touch it when I'm stressed. It has weight, real weight. We moved to the finance office. Valerie locked the door. The building was empty now except security downstairs. She spread statements across the desk, cream cardstock heavier than regular paper. That official campaign committee weight. Each one had line items in tiny print, dates, amounts, vendor names. But what caught my attention were the yellow highlighter marks. Valerie's highlighter squeaked across specific charges, making wet chemical marks. The Ritz-Carlton, she said, pointing. October 18th, Twin Elms $800 marked as donor meeting. But I checked our donor database. No meeting scheduled that day. The paper rustled as she turned pages. Another hotel, another date. The pattern emerged like a prosecutor's timeline. 11 hotel charges over 8 months. But here's what made my chest tighten, the dates. Valerie, where was I October 18th? She pulled up my travel calendar on her laptop. The screen glowed in the dark office. Ohio, managing the gubernatorial race. You were gone 3 weeks straight. I stared at that line item, October the 18th. The hotel charge matched the dates I was 400 miles away. My throat went dry. There's more, Valerie said. She flipped to another statement. Paper clips scraped as she removed receipts. CVS, $127 marked office supplies. She circled the item description in red pen. Prenatal vitamins. The room felt smaller. I could hear fluorescent lights humming, could smell the highlighter chemicals, could feel my pulse in my fingertips touching that paper. Andrew, there are 23 separate strategy sessions on our calendar between Jennifer and Ryan, all evenings, all weekends, all when you were managing other races. I looked at her. Valerie's eyes were wet. Who else knows? Just me, so far. 3 weeks, enough time for anything. The next evening, I came home for family dinner. Sunday ritual. Jennifer had made pot roast, my favorite. The dining room smelled like rosemary and red wine. Madison was there with Ryan. My daughter looked radiant. 26 years old, rising star in political communications, working on a congressional race in District 4. She had my determination, her mother's social grace. Ryan sat beside her. 28, Georgetown grad, sharp as hell. I'd hired him 14 months ago as deputy campaign manager. He reminded me of myself at that age, ambitious, strategic, hungry to win. I'd been mentoring him, teaching him everything I knew about running campaigns. The irony would hit me later. Jennifer stood at the head of the table. She wore a blue dress, elegant, composed. She clinked her wine glass with a fork. The sound rang clear. "We have beautiful news," she said, smiling at me. "I'm pregnant," Madison screamed, literally screamed with joy. She jumped up, hugged her mother, started crying happy tears. "Oh my God, Mom, Dad, a baby!" Ryan grinned, shook my hand across the table. "Congratulations, Andrew. That's incredible." Under the table, I counted backward on my fingers. March 2nd, due date. That meant October conception. My hands were steady, cutting pot roast, smiling, nodding, accepting congratulations. October conception. I'd had a vasectomy in 2019, 6 years ago. After Jennifer's health scare with high blood pressure, we'd decided our family was complete. 2 kids, 2 careers, enough. I watched my daughter hug my wife. I watched Ryan smile at me, and I smiled back, because that's what you do in politics, you perform. Madison held out her left hand, showing off her engagement ring for the 100th time. Platinum band, 1.2 carat center diamond. It caught the candlelight, creating tiny rainbow refractions across the tablecloth. "Ryan saved for months," Madison said. "I can't believe he spent this much." The ring box had been Tiffany blue. I'd seen the receipt once, casually. $18,000. A lot of money for a deputy campaign manager making $75,000 a year. But I'd thought maybe he saved well. Good financial planning, the kind of discipline I respected. Now, looking at that ring sparkle in the candlelight, I did different math. Jennifer was glowing, hand on her stomach. Due March 2nd. We'll find out the gender in a few weeks. March 2nd. Election certification was March 9th. She'd planned even that timing well. I raised my wine glass. To new beginnings. Everyone drank. The wine tasted like ash in my mouth. If you've ever had to smile through the worst moment of your life, if you've ever had to perform happiness while your world was ending, just type "same" in the comments. You're not alone in that. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. 3 days later, I was alone in the war room at 11 p.m. Ryan had gone home an hour earlier, but he'd asked me to grab his phone from his jacket pocket before I left. Said he'd accidentally left it. I was doing him a favor. His jacket hung on the back of his chair. Navy blue, quality fabric. I reached into the inner pocket. My fingers brushed paper, folded paper. I pulled it out, thermal paper. That distinctive texture, slick, thin, different from regular paper. When I unfolded it, the creases crackled. The image was grainy, black, white, gray. Baby outline at 14 weeks, dated November 8th, 2025. I turned it over. Jennifer's handwriting. I'd seen that handwriting for 25 years. Anniversary cards, grocery lists, post-it notes on the fridge, blue pen, flowing cursive, 3 words, "Our future, Jay." The same phrase she'd written on the ultrasound when Madison was born 26 years ago. Same exact phrase. I remembered because I'd saved that ultrasound in our family album. Our future, with that same hyphen, same blue pen. My hands were shaking holding this paper. The thermal surface was cool. The baby outline stared back at me. Someone else's baby, with my wife's hopeful handwriting. I stood there in the empty war room, whiteboard behind me covered in debate strategy, fluorescent lights humming, the ultrasound in my hands, evidence found in my future son-in-law's jacket pocket. Our future. I could trace the letters with my finger. Real ink, real betrayal. I left the phone on Ryan's desk, took the ultrasound, drove home at 2 a.m. Jennifer was asleep. I went to my home office and closed the door. The laptop screen glowed in the darkness. I opened our shared campaign calendar, Google Calendar, with color-coded entries, red for candidate events, blue for fundraising, green for strategy meetings, purple for personal. I scrolled backward through the months, looking for the pattern Valerie had mentioned. Strategy session, JMS and RCW, Jennifer Marie Sullivan, Ryan Christopher Wade, my wife and my deputy, August 12th, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. I'd been in Pennsylvania that week managing a state Senate race, August 27th, 9 p.m. to midnight. I'd been home that night, but the session was marked off-site at a Starbucks that closes at 9 p.m. September 3rd, September 15th, September 22nd, 23 sessions total, all evenings, all weekends, all when I was traveling or distracted. But here's what made my blood run cold, the version history. Google Calendar keeps track of every edit, every deletion. I clicked Show Version History. Entries appeared in red. Deleted entries. October 14th. Personal R. Deleted October 16th. October 15th. A full day marked day off. Personal errands created. October 15th, I opened my bank statements. Our campaign shared an account tracking system for transparency. Ryan's corporate card had activity I could see. October 15th, Tiffany & Co., $18,000. October 12th, I pulled up Jennifer's personal calendar. She'd synced it to our family account years ago, thinking I never looked at it. OB/GYN appointment, first prenatal visit, 10 a.m. I stared at the screen. October 12th, Jennifer's first OB appointment where she learned she was pregnant. October 15th, Ryan charged $18,000 at Tiffany's for an engagement ring. October 18th, he proposed to Madison. 3 days after learning about the pregnancy, he bought her ring. 6 days later, he proposed. I leaned back in my chair. The union pin on my lapel caught the desk lamp light. My father had worn this pin for 40 years. He'd taught me politics was about working people, about integrity, about doing right even when it cost you. The clasp felt loose suddenly, worn out, like everything else. Madison's engagement wasn't romance, it wasn't love, it was a timeline, a strategy, a hostile takeover disguised as a proposal. Ryan had researched my family like we research opponents, found our vulnerabilities, Jennifer's loneliness, Madison's ambition, my absence, and he'd exploited every single weakness. In politics, timing is everything. We time attacks, we time releases, we time messages for maximum impact. That's how you win campaigns. But the truth operates on its own schedule, and the truth was coming whether I timed it right or not. I sat in my home office until dawn, staring at those calendar entries, at that $18,000 charge, at the ultrasound with my wife's handwriting lying on my desk, our future. Except it wasn't ours anymore. It never had been. The confrontation happened 3 days later. Jennifer requested a meeting in my campaign office, after hours, just the two of us. She arrived at 7 p.m. The building was mostly empty. Through the glass walls, I could see the cleaning crew vacuuming reception. Down the hall, Congressman Harrison's office was dark. We were alone, but not really. In politics, you're never truly alone. Someone's always watching. Jennifer sat across from my desk. She looked composed. Hair perfect, makeup flawless. The same woman I'd married 28 years ago, except I didn't know her anymore. "I know you know," she said. I didn't respond. My hand drifted to the union pin on my lapel, rubbed it with my thumb. The brass was warm from my body heat. "I saw you take the ultrasound from Ryan's jacket," she continued, "and I'm guessing Valerie showed you the credit card statements. She's always been loyal to you." "Loyal," I repeated. The word tasted bitter. Jennifer leaned forward. She had additional ultrasound photos in her hand, placed them on my desk like playing cards. This baby is real, Andrew. Due March 2nd. A boy. A boy? Yes. She smiled. Actually smiled. I know what you're thinking about the timeline, about the complications, but here's what we're going to do. I waited. You're going to adopt him legally. We'll tell everyone he's ours, a miracle baby. People will love that story. The campaign manager and his wife celebrating new life during an election season. It's actually perfect timing. My fingers tightened on the union pin. Jennifer kept talking. You've spent 25 years protecting candidates' families, Andrew, managing scandals, controlling narratives. This is just another crisis to manage, and you're the best at that. Everyone says so. You want me to raise Ryan's child. I want you to protect our family. Her voice hardened. You can expose this, sure. File for divorce. Destroy Ryan. But what happens to Madison? What happens to Congressman Harrison's campaign? What happens to your reputation as the man who runs clean campaigns? I looked at her, or really looked at her. Who are you? She stood, smoothed her dress. I'm your wife, the mother of your children, and the woman carrying a baby who needs a father. You'll do the right thing, Andrew. You always do. She walked to the door, paused. We'll schedule the anatomy scan for next week. You should be there. Play the part. The door closed behind her. I sat there in my office. The union pin's clasp dug into my palm. I'd been gripping it so hard, and then I felt it. The clasp broke. The pin fell. Such a tiny metallic bounce on the carpet. Such a small sound for such a big moment. I picked it up. The clasp hung loose. 40 years of integrity broken. I found Ryan 2 nights later. Campaign headquarters parking garage. 7 p.m. Staffers were heading to their cars. The concrete space echoed with engines starting, car doors slamming, security cameras visible in the corners. Ryan was walking to his BMW. Madison had helped him pick it out 6 months ago. I remembered because she'd been so excited, texting me photos from the dealership. Ryan's getting a promotion car, she'd written. He's moving up. Ryan. He turned, saw me. For half a second, his face went pale. Then the mask slid back on. Confident smile. Andrew, hey, working late? We need to talk. His eyes flicked to the security cameras. Sure. What's up? I stepped closer, not threatening, just close enough that he had to back against his car. Close enough that he couldn't pretend this was casual. How long? I asked. How long what? Don't. I've seen the credit card statements, the calendar, the ultrasound in your jacket, Jennifer's handwriting. Our future. I watched him process each item, watched him realize how much I knew. How? Long. Ryan's jaw tightened. Andrew, listen. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? The word wife echoed in the parking garage. A car alarm went off 2 levels down. We both ignored it. Ryan ran his hand through his hair. 11 months. But Andrew, you have to understand, she came on to me. I tried to stop it. But you're never home. She was lonely. She needed someone to see her. And Madison? He flinched. What about Madison? When did you decide to propose to my daughter? Before or after you got my wife pregnant? Silence. The parking garage smelled like exhaust and motor oil. Somewhere above us, a car engine revved. After, Ryan finally said. But Andrew, Madison, that's different. I care about her. She's smart. She's connected. She's the campaign manager's daughter. She's the right move for my career. He said it flat, like stating a fact. You understand strategy. You've been teaching me for 14 months. Find the weakness. Exploit the leverage point. Build coalitions. Madison was part of the strategy. I stepped closer. Ryan pressed back against his BMW. You research my daughter like an opponent. I researched your family like an opportunity. His voice rose. You want to know the truth? Fine. Jennifer gave me access to campaign finances. Madison gives me your professional network. This baby gives me legitimacy. Family man, young father, ready to take on responsibility. In 5 years, I could run for city council. In 10, state legislature. You taught me how to build a campaign, Andrew. I just applied those lessons. To my family. To my future. He met my eyes. And you can't stop it. You expose me. You expose Jennifer. You hurt Madison. You destroy Harrison's campaign. You become the scandal. The strategist who couldn't see betrayal in his own war room. Is that the legacy you want? I wanted to hit him. 25 years in politics, I'd never hit anyone. But standing there in that parking garage, listening to him reduce my daughter to a career move, I wanted to break his nose. Instead, I stepped back. You're fired, I said quietly. Effective immediately, morality clause violation. I'll have your termination paperwork ready tomorrow. You can't fire me. I have a contract. Read the fine print. Sexual relationship with another senior staff member while engaged to a third party. That's grounds for immediate termination without severance. I turned to walk away. Clean out your desk tonight. Security will escort you. Andrew, we're done. I walked to my car, got in, sat there shaking for 10 minutes before I could turn the key. In politics, timing is everything, but the truth doesn't care about my schedule. It doesn't wait for convenient moments. The truth was already spreading, and I couldn't contain it. That night, I did something I'd never done in 25 years of campaign management. I broke into an employee's office. Valerie was with me. She had the building master key, security override for the deputy finance director. We waited until 2 a.m. Cleaning crew gone, security making rounds on the ground floor. Ryan's office was on the third floor, corner office. I'd given it to him 6 months ago as a promotion, reward for excellent work. Valerie unlocked the door. We went inside, closed the blinds. What are we looking for? She whispered. I don't know. Evidence, anything that shows premeditation. Ryan's desk was neat, organized. A framed photo of Madison smiling. Campaign posters on the walls. Motivational quotes about winning. It looked like every other young operative's office, except for the locked file cabinet. Valerie tried her master key. It worked. The drawer slid open, and there it was. A red folder, classified style, heavy cardstock. Confidential, stamped across the front in black. I pulled it out. The folder had weight, real weight, not metaphorically, literally heavy in my hands. I set it on Ryan's desk. The slap echoed in the quiet office. Valerie clicked on the desk lamp. I opened the folder. The first page stopped my heart. Opposition research, confidential, and below that, Sullivan family analysis, exploitation strategy, 140 pages, tabs dividing sections, as, Andrew, JS, Jennifer, MS, Madison, my family, organized like an opponent's vulnerability file. I flipped to the first tab, my section. Ryan's handwriting was everywhere in the margins. Blue ink, flowing cursive, notes about my schedule, my travel patterns, my professional blind spots. Subject maintains rigorous campaign schedule, averaging 6 to 7 campaigns simultaneously during election cycles, home presence minimal, estimated 90 days year during peak season. Professional focus creates personal vulnerability. Recommendation, target requires indirect approach. Direct opposition would trigger strategic defense. Recommend exploitation through family access points. I kept reading. There were yellow post-its throughout marking key sections. Highlighter marks. This wasn't old research. This was active, used. Valerie was reading over my shoulder. Her breathing got faster. I turned to Jennifer's section. JS, Jennifer Sullivan, target alpha. Age 50, role, campaign finance director. Marriage duration, 28 years. Vulnerability, assessment, Subject showed signs of neglect-based emotional vulnerability, multiple indicators of desire for validation. Attention. Expressed frustration with campaign widow status in staff meetings, March 3rd, May 17th, July 22nd, documented. Responsive to focused attention and professional partnership. Control point for campaign finance access, secondary benefit. Marked. Family legitimacy if relationship formalized through MS, target beta, target alpha, target beta. My wife and daughter reduced to tactical targets. I flipped to Madison's section. My hands were shaking. MS, Madison Sullivan, target beta. Age 26. Role, digital communications manager, District 4 campaign. Vulnerability assessment. Subject demonstrates strong desire to prove professional merit, independent of father's reputation. Defensive regarding nepotism. Accusation seeks validation through high achievement partnerships. Father, AS, represents professional gold standard. Romantic partnership with AS's protégé provides validation pathway. Subject provides E1 professional network access, Flibris 2 Sullivan family legitimacy, NIS 3 political mentorship through AS relationship, 4 future campaign support infrastructure. Strategy, initiate romantic relationship post-JS relationship establishment, legitimacy through family approval. Proposal, timing, coordinate with pregnancy reveal for maximum family integration, long-term value, political career advancement, Sullivan network access, eventual ACE successor positioning. I read it twice, then a third time. Ryan had created a dossier on my daughter, clinical analysis of her weaknesses, her need for validation, her defensiveness about being my daughter. He'd researched her, like we research opponents, found what made her vulnerable, and exploited it. Valerie was crying beside me. Andrew, he ran a campaign against your family. I couldn't speak. I just kept reading. There were timeline projections. Estimated conception, September. Pregnancy reveal, November. Proposal to MS October before pregnancy complications arise. Marriage April before birth. Legitimacy established, target secured. Every step planned, every move calculated. This wasn't an affair that got out of hand. This wasn't passion or loneliness or midlife crisis. This was opposition research applied to my family by the man I'd been training for 14 months. I'd taught him how to find weaknesses, how to exploit vulnerabilities, how to build a winning strategy, and he'd studied me to destroy me. I closed the folder. The sound was final, decisive. Valerie, photograph every page. We need documentation. For what? Federal Election Commission complaint. He used campaign resources for personal gain. That's a violation. I looked at her. And evidence for my divorce attorney. Valerie pulled out her phone, started photographing pages. The flash lit up Ryan's office in bursts. Click, flash, click, flash. Target alpha, target beta, exploitation strategy. My family reduced to a hostile takeover plan. If you were Andrew right now, you've got evidence of the affair, the FEC violations, the systematic manipulation, but there's still 8 months until the election. Your candidate is innocent. 300 staff members and volunteers depend on this campaign. Would you expose everything immediately and risk destroying the campaign? Type expose. Or stay quiet until after the election to protect your candidate? Type wait. What would you do? Because that's the question I was asking myself. Watching Valerie photograph my daughter's vulnerability assessment. And then my phone rang. Trevor, my son. I hadn't talked to Trevor in 6 months. We'd been estranged for 2 years. He was an Air Force captain stationed at the Pentagon, 30 years old, brilliant, principled, and deeply, deeply disappointed in me. I answered, Trevor? Dad. His voice was tight, military controlled. I'm outside your campaign office. Rachel's with me. We need to talk. Now. How did you... Valerie called me 3 days ago. Told me what's happening. Dad, I'm coming up. The line went dead. Valerie looked guilty. I'm sorry, I know you two aren't, but I thought you needed family. Real family. 2 minutes later, Trevor appeared in Ryan's office doorway. He was in full uniform, Air Force dress blues, sharp military bearing, medals on his chest. He looked like my father, same jaw, same eyes, same integrity carved into his face. Rachel stood beside him, Captain Rachel Lynn, also Air Force, also brilliant. Trevor's wife of 4 years. Trevor looked at the red folder, at Valerie's phone photographing pages, at me standing there with evidence of my family's destruction spread across Ryan's desk. Dad. I couldn't speak. Seeing my son, after 2 years of silence, after missing his promotion ceremony, after choosing campaigns over his wedding rehearsal, I couldn't speak. Trevor crossed the room, picked up the folder, read the title page. His expression didn't change. Military discipline. Then he looked at me. How long have you known? A week. And you haven't filed for divorce yet. It's complicated. The campaign is 8 months away. Trevor's voice was hard. Dad, you need to file. Now. Not after the election. Not after some strategic timing calculation. Now. Rachel stepped forward. Andrew, we want to adopt the baby. I stared at her. Trevor told me everything, she continued. We've been trying to have children for 3 years. Fertility issues. We've been looking into adoption. She glanced at Trevor. That child deserves truth from day one, not to grow up in a lie. Trevor set the folder down. He picked something up off Ryan's desk. My union pin. I'd left it there when I'd confronted Ryan yesterday. The broken clasp hung loose. My son looked at the pin, pulled out a small multi-tool from his pocket. With precise movements, he repaired the clasp. Tested it. Secure. He handed it to me. You taught me this pin mattered. That integrity matters. That Dad's father wore it for 40 years organizing for working people. That politics should be about what's right, not just what wins. His voice cracked slightly. You taught me that. And then you spent 25 years choosing campaigns over family. Missing my childhood, missing Mom's birthday, missing my Air Force Academy graduation. I grew up believing you chose us, chose family, but you didn't. You chose winning. I couldn't look at him. But Dad, Trevor's hand on my shoulder, right now you're choosing family. You could spin this, cover it until after the election, save your reputation, but you're here at 2 a.m. breaking into Ryan's office to get evidence. You're choosing truth. He pulled me into a hug, first time in 2 years. We both cried. Standing in Ryan's office with that red folder of opposition research on my family. Valerie crying in the corner, Rachel with her hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, Trevor. For all of it, for missing everything, for choosing wrong. You're choosing right now. He held up the union pin. That's what matters. And Dad, Nathan, we're naming him Nathan Andrew Wade Sullivan. Rachel and I, if you'll let us. Nathan. Andrew after you, because you finally showed me what that pin means. Integrity when it costs you everything. Trevor pinned it on my lapel. The repaired clasp clicked shut. Secure. Now file the divorce, expose Ryan, and let's end this the right way. The journalist called the next morning, Marcus Thompson, Washington Post. I'd known him for 15 years. He covered politics in the Virginia, D.C. area. Fair reporter, ethical, the kind of journalist who actually checked sources. We met at a coffee shop in Arlington, public space, staffers from both campaigns nearby. If people saw us together, it would spread through the political community in hours. Marcus arrived with his reporter's notebook. Andrew. Marcus. He ordered coffee. We sat at a corner table. He didn't record. I'd made that clear. Just notebook, shorthand. I'm going to be direct, Marcus said. I've been hearing things about your finance director, your deputy campaign manager, about resignation rumors. I didn't respond. I've also heard things about your daughter's engagement, some interesting timeline questions about a ring purchase and a pregnancy announcement. I sipped my coffee. It was too hot. Burned my tongue. Andrew, I've covered you for 15 years. You run clean campaigns. You're the guy other strategists call when they want to do it right. Whatever's happening here. Marcus closed his notebook. I'm asking you as a courtesy, do you want to control this story? Or should I start digging and write what I find? My phone buzzed. Text message from Samantha Cross, my rival campaign manager. We'd been competitors for 15 years. She was managing the opposing campaign in Harrison's race. Smart, ruthless. We respected each other even while trying to destroy each other's candidates. The text read, I know, I have evidence too. I'm not using it. Some things are bigger than winning, Andrew. Handle it with integrity. That's why I got into this business. Maybe you'll remind me why I still believe in it. I stared at my phone. In politics, you expect betrayal. You don't expect honor, especially from opponents. I looked at Marcus. How much time do I have? For what? To do this right, to file the legal paperwork, to tell my daughter to give my candidate a statement he can use. Marcus leaned back. A week, maybe 2. But Andrew, this is going to break, with or without you. Better if it's your story. Thank you. I left the coffee shop. The morning sun was too bright. Arlington traffic hummed around me, life continuing like normal, while mine was ending. But Marcus was right. Better if it was my story. In politics, timing is everything, but truth doesn't wait for convenient scheduling. September 18th, first televised debate. The auditorium in Arlington held 1,200 people, CS-PAN cameras, press corps of 40 journalists, our entire 28-person campaign staff. Madison in the audience, third row, here to support both her father and the campaign she'd worked parallel to all year. I was backstage managing Congressman Harrison's debate prep. Except I couldn't focus. Through the monitors, I could see the press room. Jennifer was there in a navy dress, working the press as finance director. Ryan stood beside her. I hadn't fired him yet. Couldn't. Not without triggering the FEC investigation filing first, so for appearance's sake, they were both still on staff. They stood too close, laughing at something a reporter said. Professional, charming. My phone buzzed. Text from Madison. Dad, something feels wrong. Are you okay? I couldn't answer. The debate was starting in 5 minutes. Congressman Harrison stood beside me, reviewing note cards. Andrew, the healthcare section, what are my talking points again? I stared at him. Healthcare section. I'd forgotten to prep him on healthcare. That was the key question tonight. The opponent's weakness. I was supposed to have spent 3 hours on it yesterday. I'd spent those 3 hours with Trevor and my divorce attorney instead. Andrew? Harrison's voice had an edge. Healthcare? My mind was blank. 25 years of campaigns, I'd never blanked before. Economic sustainability, Medicare expansion concerns, small business impacts, generic talking points, nothing specific, nothing winning. Harrison frowned. That's what we've been saying for weeks. I need something new, sharp. What did the opposition research show? The opposition research. I'd spent all week reading Ryan's opposition research on my family. I hadn't read the opponent's file. Andrew, what the hell is going on with you? The debate moderator's voice echoed through the auditorium. Please welcome Congressman David Harrison. Harrison walked on stage. I stayed backstage watching monitors. He stumbled on the healthcare question, gave the generic answer. The opponent countered with specific numbers, polls, Congressional Budget Office data. Harrison looked weak, unprepared, because I hadn't prepared him. I looked at the monitor showing the press room. Jennifer and Ryan were watching the debate. Jennifer's hand briefly touched Ryan's arm, just for a second, but I saw it. My phone buzzed again. Madison, Dad, I'm leaving. Something's really wrong. Call me. I watched her walk out of the auditorium on the monitor, alone, texting someone, probably me. The debate ended. Harrison lost. Not catastrophically, but enough. The post-debate polls would show it. Congressman Harrison found me backstage. His face was red, angry. What the hell happened? You've never let me down before. Never. That's why I hired you. Because Andrew Sullivan closes. But tonight you were somewhere else entirely. I looked past him at the monitor. Jennifer and Ryan in the press room. Madison walking out alone. My campaign, the thing I'd sacrificed 25 years for, crumbling because I couldn't focus. Congressman, I can't do this anymore. Can't do what? Pretend that winning matters more than truth. Harrison stared at me. What are you talking about? I need to tell you something about Jennifer and Ryan, about why I missed the healthcare prep, about why everything is falling apart. I walked out of the auditorium, found Madison sitting on the curb outside. Yeeting out 200 people inside watching victory parties, just us outside. Maddie, she looked up, mascara running. Dad, what's happening? You've never lost focus like that. I sat beside her on the concrete. The curb was cold. Traffic passed. The campaign world continued inside the building. But out here, it was just father and daughter. Maddie, I need to tell you something about your mother and Ryan. She looked at me. Dad? I took her hand, the hand with that $18,000 ring. The baby your mother is carrying, it's Ryan's. They've been having an affair for almost a year. Madison stared at her engagement ring, that platinum band catching streetlight. How long have you known? 2 weeks. She started laughing, hysterical laughter that turned to sobbing. I chose him because you loved him. I thought if Andrew Sullivan trusted him, if you were mentoring him, he must be good enough for the Sullivan name. I chose him for you, Dad. We sat there crying. Campaign world inside, real world with us. And for the first time in 25 years, I'd chosen the real world first. The FEC complaint took Valerie 3 days to prepare. She documented everything, every hotel charge, every strategy session, every prenatal vitamin purchase marked as office supplies, 140 pages of evidence, credit card statements, calendar screenshots, bank records showing the timeline between Jennifer's OB appointment and Ryan's ring purchase. September 22nd, campaign headquarters conference room. I'd called an all-staff meeting for 9 a.m. 28 people assembled. Some knew something was wrong, most didn't. Congressman Harrison sat at the head of the table. I'd briefed him the night before, showed him everything, the opposition research folder, the affair timeline, the FEC violations. He'd been quiet for a long time, then he'd said, "Do what's right, Andrew. That's why I hired you." Now, facing our staff, I stood, Valerie beside me with the complaint document, white paper, blue FEC seal embossed at the top. You could feel the raised texture, official, irreversible. I need to inform everyone of significant personnel changes, I said. My voice was steady, clear. For the first time in 2 weeks, I wasn't performing. Effective immediately, Jennifer Sullivan is terminated as finance director for violations of campaign finance law. Ryan Wade is terminated as deputy campaign manager for violations of our staff conduct policy and misuse of campaign resources. The room went silent. You could hear the HVAC system humming. Someone's phone buzzed. Valerie Kim, our deputy finance director, has prepared a formal complaint to the Federal Election Commission documenting the misuse of campaign funds for personal expenses. This complaint will be filed today via certified mail. Jennifer stood. She was in the back of the room. You're destroying this campaign. Every head turned. I looked at her, at this woman I'd loved for 28 years. No, I'm saving it. Andrew, we don't win by covering up crimes. We win by doing what's right, even when it costs everything. I looked at our staff. 28 people who believed in clean campaigns. Who'd signed up because we promised integrity. I'm sorry you're learning about this in a meeting. I'm sorry it's public, but you deserve to know the truth. I nodded to Valerie. She held up the complaint. This is the FEC complaint, 12 pages, exhibits attached. I'm filing it at 10 a.m. Under federal law, it becomes public record in 10 days. What does that mean for the campaign? Someone asked. A young field organizer, 23 years old, first campaign. Congressman Harrison stood. It means we continue with integrity. Andrew Sullivan just showed all of you why I hired him, why we run campaigns the way we do. Truth matters more than winning. He looked at me, nodded. I pulled out 2 letters, termination paperwork. Jennifer, Ryan, security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. Your access to campaign resources is revoked immediately. Ryan had been sitting near the door. He stood. Andrew, you're making a mistake. This will destroy Harrison's numbers. Maybe, but it won't destroy his integrity. Jennifer walked toward the door, stopped beside me, whispered low enough only I could hear, "You'll regret this. My father will make sure of it." Her father, Robert Westbrook, retired banker, had donated money to various campaigns over the years. She was already planning her counterattack. I whispered back, "Your father can't buy integrity. Neither can you." Security arrived, escorted them both out. The room stayed silent for a full minute. Then Valerie spoke. "I have the certified mail ready, tracking number 9405503699300177684-2. 10 days until public disclosure." I looked at our staff. "Questions?" "What about Madison?" Someone asked quietly. Our communications director, Emily. She'd worked with Madison on cross-campaign strategy. "Madison knows. She's processing. She's taking some time off from her own campaign." Because 3 days ago, Madison had made a different choice. A public one. It happened at her engagement party, National Harbor, waterfront venue, 30 guests, all political operatives, donors, campaign staff. Madison had planned it for weeks. Navy blue and silver theme, elegant, professional, the kind of party where careers are built over champagne and crab cakes. I wasn't supposed to be there. Madison had uninvited me 2 days after our curb conversation, said she needed space, needed to process. But Nina Patel called me, Madison's best friend since college, event planner who worked with our vineyard venue partners. "Andrew, you need to come. Madison's going to confront Ryan tonight in front of everyone." So I went, stood in the back, watched. The venue was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Potomac, white tablecloths, string quartet, 30 of DC's political elite mingling, networking, celebrating. Madison stood near the windows. She was holding her wedding planning binder. Navy blue, 3 inches thick. That binder she'd spent months filling with venue photos, guest lists, vendor contracts, $42,000 in deposits, 280 invitations already addressed. Ryan was across the room, talking to a donor, charming, confident, playing the role of devoted fiancé. Madison cleared her throat. The quartet stopped playing. "I want to thank everyone for coming," she said. Her voice was steady. "I know you're all busy. Campaign season, lots of late nights, lots of strategy sessions." A few people laughed. Campaign humor. "I've been thinking about strategy a lot lately," Madison continued, "about timing, about how we research candidates, find their vulnerabilities, exploit their weaknesses." She looked at Ryan. "Isn't that right, Ryan? You're good at that. Opponent research." Ryan's smile faltered. "Maddie, what are you—" "October 12th, 2025. Madison's voice got louder. "That's the date my mother had her first OB appointment. First prenatal visit. Found out she was pregnant." The room went quiet. Completely quiet. "October 15th, 2025. Madison held up her left hand. The platinum ring caught the chandelier light. "That's the date Ryan charged $18,000 at Tiffany's. 3 days later." She walked toward Ryan. He backed toward the wall, 30 witnesses watching. "October 18th, 2025. That's the date you proposed to me. 6 days after learning my mother was carrying your baby. Someone gasped. A champagne glass fell, shattered on the marble floor. Tell them, Ryan. Madison's voice broke slightly. Tell everyone here why you really proposed to the campaign manager's daughter. Tell them about the opposition research folder, about target beta, about how you researched my father's family like we research opponents, found our vulnerabilities, exploited them. Ryan looked around. 30 political operatives, all watching, all recording this in their memories. DC is a small town. By tomorrow, this would be everywhere. Madison, Tell them I was a business acquisition. Her voice was fierce now, angry. Tell them my wedding was going to be your hostile takeover celebration. She pulled off the engagement ring, held it up. The diamonds sparkled. I was 26 years old. I chose you because my father trusted you. Because I thought if Andrew Sullivan was mentoring you, you must be worthy of the Sullivan name. I thought you loved me. She dropped the ring on the floor. It bounced, rolled. Everyone watched it circle and fall flat. Madison opened her wedding binder, started ripping out pages. First the venue photos, then the guest list, then the contracts. Maddie, stop. Nina moved toward her. It's not okay. Madison kept ripping, papers everywhere. Nothing's okay. I just learned that the man I loved researched me like an opponent, found my weaknesses, exploited them. She looked at the 30 guests, all of them frozen. You all want to know what campaign management really looks like? This is what happens when you treat people like targets. She dropped the destroyed binder, walked out. Ryan stood there, 30 witnesses, his career in DC effectively over. No one would hire him now. The story would spread too fast, too far. I followed Madison outside, found her by the water. She was crying. I'm sorry, Dad. For what? For not believing you sooner, for choosing wrong, I pulled her close. You didn't choose wrong. He was good at what he did. That's why I hired him. That's why I didn't see it either. We stood there, father and daughter, the Potomac flowing past. Campaign party continuing inside without us. What happens now? Madison asked. Now we rebuild, on truth this time. Marcus Thompson's article posted on the Washington Post website at 6 a.m. on September 25th. The headline, Campaign Manager Exposes Staff Affair, Files Federal Complaint, Chooses Truth Over Victory. He'd interviewed me for 3 hours 2 days earlier. I'd given him everything, the timeline, the opposition research folder, the FEC complaint, even the personal cost, my marriage ending, my daughter's engagement destroyed. Marcus had written it carefully, fairly. He'd included statements from Congressman Harrison, from Samantha Cross, the opposing campaign manager, who'd said on record, Andrew Sullivan reminded me why I got into politics. Some things are bigger than winning. By 9 a.m., the article had 50,000 views. By noon, Politico had picked it up. The Hill, local news stations, our internal polls showed us down 5 points by 2 p.m. I sat in my office watching the news coverage. Cable news panels debating whether I'd done the right thing. Some said I was a hero. Some said I'd sabotaged my own campaign for personal revenge. Valerie came in at 3 p.m. Andrew, new polls. How bad? We recovered 4 points. We're only down 1 now. I stared at her. What? Voters are responding to the integrity narrative. They're saying they want politicians who tell the truth even when it hurts. Harrison's favorability is up 3 points. My phone rang. Samantha Cross. Andrew, I just saw the Post article. Samantha. You just reminded me why I got into this business. Her voice was warm, genuine. 20 years ago, I believed politics could be honorable. Then I spent 20 years fighting in the mud. And today you showed me it's still possible. Thank you. She hung up. I sat there, looking at the polls, reading the article comments, seeing voter reactions. In politics, timing is everything, but truth doesn't wait for convenient scheduling. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the truth wins anyway. The Federal Election Commission investigation took 6 weeks. They reviewed every document Valerie submitted, interviewed staff, examined credit card statements, cross-referenced dates with campaign schedules. The findings were released November 15th. Willful misuse of campaign funds for personal expenses, pattern of deception regarding the nature and purpose of expenditures, evidence of coordination between 2 senior staff members to conceal improper charges. Total fines, $28,000, split between Jennifer Sullivan and Ryan Wade. Ryan had already left D.C., took a job with a pharmaceutical lobbying firm in Los Angeles, paid better, but he'd never work in campaign politics again. The opposition research folder story had spread too far, too fast. Nobody would trust him. Jennifer had moved in with her father, filed for divorce from me. Her attorney sent threatening letters about vindictive termination and malicious prosecution. But the FEC findings shut that down. You can't claim vindictive termination when federal investigators confirm the violations. My divorce attorney called it the most documented divorce case in Virginia history. Every affair timeline, every hotel charge, every deleted calendar entry, every page of Ryan's opposition research folder. The judge wasn't sympathetic to Jennifer's position. Madison had taken a month off, quit her campaign job temporarily, said she needed to figure out who she was outside of politics. Outside of being Andrew Sullivan's daughter, I understood. I was figuring out who I was outside of being the closer. But the call that mattered came on November 20th. Trevor. Dad, the adoption paperwork is approved. I was in my new apartment, smaller, quieter. No campaign posters on the walls, just boxes I hadn't unpacked yet. Rachel and I are officially cleared to adopt. Nathan Andrew Wade Sullivan, due date March 2nd. Nathan. After Dad's father, after you, because you finally showed me what that union pin really means. Trevor's voice was warm. Rachel's already decorating the nursery, military themed of course, little camouflage, everything. I laughed. First genuine laugh in months. Will you be there at the hospital when he's born? I'll be there. Good. Because he's going to know his origin story, Dad, from day one. No lies, just truth. That his birth mother made a mistake. That his birth father was ambitious and cruel. But that his real family, the one that chose him, wanted him from the moment we knew he existed. Trevor and Rachel chose Nathan, not because of blood, because of truth, because they wanted to build a family on honesty from day one. If you've built your own chosen family, people who showed up when blood relatives didn't, people who chose you when genetics didn't bind them, tell me about them in the comments. I want to hear those stories. And if this story moved you, if Andrew's choice to tell the truth when it cost everything reminded you why integrity matters, subscribe. I tell stories about people who choose what's right even when it destroys what they built. I'll see you in the next one. But first, election night, November 5th, 2026, Election Day. I watched from home, not the war room, not campaign headquarters, home. My new apartment with the unpacked boxes, the walls still bare, the life I was building from scratch. Trevor called at 8 p.m. Dad, turn on the news. Results are coming in. I turned on the TV. Cable news coverage, electoral map, District 7 numbers rolling in. Congressman David Harrison, 51.2%, opponent 40.8%. Harrison won by 3 points. The campaign I'd almost destroyed. The race everyone said was over when the scandal broke. Won. Because voters had responded to integrity. The TV showed Harrison's victory speech, campaign headquarters, staff cheering, Valerie in the background crying happy tears. And I want to thank Andrew Sullivan, Harrison was saying. He taught me that some things are more important than winning. That truth matters, that integrity isn't just a campaign slogan, it's how you live. Andrew, if you're watching, thank you for everything. A knock on my door. Trevor stood there in his Air Force uniform, dressed blues, medals, Rachel beside him, and in Trevor's arms, a baby, 6 months old, laughing at everything, wide eyes, dark hair, Nathan Andrew Wade Sullivan. "Surprise," Trevor said. "We thought you shouldn't watch the victory alone. We figured you'd be here instead of headquarters." I stared at the baby, at my grandson, not by blood, by choice. "Can I?" "Of course." Trevor handed him to me carefully. Nathan was warm, solid, real. He grabbed my finger, squeezed, made a happy gurgling sound. I looked at Trevor's uniform. The Union pin was there, on his lapel. The pin I'd worn for 25 years, that my father wore for 40 years before that. "I pinned it on him at the adoption ceremony," I said quietly. "Remember?" "I remember, and I'm going to give it to Nathan when he's old enough to understand what it means." Trevor sat beside me, put his arm around me. "He'll know, Dad. He'll know his grandfather chose truth over winning, that you finally got it right." We sat there. 3 generations, watching a victory speech on TV, the campaign I'd run honestly for the first time in my career. Rachel leaned over. "Madison called. She's thinking about running for city council, reform platform, truth from day one, no games, no manipulation, just honest politics." "That's the only kind of campaign worth running," I said. Nathan laughed, reached for the TV remote. Trevor pulled it away gently. "Not yet, buddy. You've got time." The victory speech ended. Harrison thanked the crowd, the staff, the volunteers, the voters who'd believed in integrity. I held Nathan, felt his heartbeat against my chest. This child would grow up knowing his origin story, knowing that his birth parents made terrible choices, but knowing that his real family, Trevor and Rachel, chose him, wanted him, loved him. Truth from day one. That's what Trevor promised, what Rachel promised, what I'd finally learned to give. In politics, timing is everything, but the truth operates on its own schedule. I spent 25 years timing attacks, timing releases, timing messages for maximum impact, timing everything perfectly. Turned out the most important timing was telling the truth when it cost me everything, when it cost my reputation, my career, my marriage, because that's the only campaign I ever won that mattered. The campaign for my daughter's trust, for my son's respect, for my own soul. You can time a lot of things in politics. You can plan strategies, calculate risks, manage narratives, but you can't time integrity. That has to be immediate, or it's already too late. Nathan fell asleep in my arms. Trevor and Rachel sat close. The TV played coverage of other races. The political world kept spinning. But here in my half-empty apartment with 3 generations of Sullivans and 1 sleeping baby who'd been chosen by love instead of bound by blood, here we'd finally gotten it right. The Union pin caught the lamplight on Trevor's uniform, brass against blue. Integrity passed down properly this time. My father would have approved.